Welcome to the AlphaWarrior Show. We're excited to share diverse perspectives and expert insights with you. Please note that the views and information expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the AlphaWarrior Show, its management, or our partners. Each of our affiliates and sponsors and partnerships is a separate entity, and their opinions are their own. Today's content is provided for information and educational purposes and should not be taken as specific advice, whether it be financial, medical, or legal. While we strive to present accurate and useful information, we cannot guarantee its completeness or relevance to your specific situation. We provide all information as is and encourage you to consult with a professional advisor to address your specific individual needs. Your use of any information from this broadcast is entirely at your own risk. By listening further, you agree to identify and protect the AlphaWarrior Show and its associates from any claims or damages arising from your use of this broadcast content. Changes to this disclaimer may be made at any time and will be done effectively immediately upon posting or broadcasting. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you find the episode both informative and thought-provoking. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the next generation of warfare, psychological warfare. In modern conflict, the mind is a potent weapon. Discover General Michael T. Flynn's groundbreaking guide, A Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. Unlock tactics, strategies, and the mindset to navigate this cognitive battlefield that we all find ourselves in. Equip yourself against manipulation and emerge unscathed. Unleash your potential. Order now.
How's it going, everybody? This is the AlphaWarrior Show. I am your host, Alpha. I'm just smiling because I'm thinking of a funny in my head. It's Operation Gladio night. We are live. We've been live a lot lately on multiple shows. I miss those days. Here's something special about tonight. And I'm not sure if the Colonel even knows this. I don't think I told her. But tonight is the last episode of Season 3 of the AlphaWarrior Show. That's right. We are hitting our 3-year anniversary this Friday, you guys. I can't believe it. I'll probably address it a little bit more at the end of the show. I just want to say thank you. This show exists because you guys decide to put your time here, and you guys completely fund this show, whether it be through affiliates, your support, or sponsors, or donation. Like, you guys completely fund this show. Like, I hope you guys know that. There ain't no NGO or some crazy, political thing that tries to, like, this show exists because you guys make it exist. I'm very honored, and I just want to say thank you guys. So the last show of our 3rd season, and the next week we'll be starting our 4th year. That's crazy. Gosh. So with that, let's get to two of our amazing sponsors. And then after that, we're commercial free for the rest of this show. Once again, you guys, thank you. Alpha loves you guys. With that on deck, Goldco, my partners, alphalikesgold.com. Be prepared. It's easy. It's fast. The rich are buying gold and silver, you guys. Today's volatile financial landscape, protecting your savings has never been more critical. I think you guys feel that. That's why savvy investors are turning to Goldco, the trusted leader in precious metals investments. Whether you're worried about inflation, market instability, or simply want to diversify your portfolio, Goldco got you covered. With Goldco, you can convert your traditional IRA or 401k into a gold and silver IRA, giving you the peace of mind that comes with holding tangible assets. Gold and silver have stood the test of time, maintaining their value through the ups and downs of the market. And with Goldco, you're not just investing in metals, you're investing in your future. What sets Goldco apart is their commitment to personalized service. Their team of experts will guide you through every step of the way, making the process easy, transparent, and tailored to your unique financial goals. Don't leave your retirement to chance. Secure your wealth with Goldco today. Visit alphalikesgold.com. When you do that, they'll send you a number. You can call the number. If you call them before they call you, you'll get, I believe it's either a half ounce or a 1 ounce Ronald Reagan coin, a silver coin. So that's pretty cool. So once again, alphalikesgold.com. Protect what you've worked your entire life for. And then our next commercial. And then when we come back, it's Gladio time.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
There you have it. So stay tuned to the end of the show. I'll give you guys a heads up on some future surprises. All my affiliates and sponsors are down in the description below, including the links to find the woman I'm bringing up right now. Colonel, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. You know what? So I changed the tone on my computer screens so I can actually see a little bit better with these glasses. Because last time I was like, please click the right
I'm
thing.
blind.
Please
It's okay. You look like Ray Charles anyway.
I'll do it. I'll play the music. So yeah, Colonel, you are the last show for season 3 for my podcast. So right on. How have you been? Kind of set us up. What are we going to be talking about tonight?
Okay. So I got to take these off. First of all, for these, I want to thank, let me get because I want to give everybody your handle on X. If you're on X, I want you to go to MAGA DI 1776 and follow Diane, who went to the trouble of producing these glasses, and she inscripted both sides, and she took them to Gart, as Alpha was explaining last week, but I got mine delivered to me yesterday from General Quast and his wife Joni, who I thank for being the courier. And I've never had a general curry for me, so I'm like feeling really special now. And Diane did something that was just totally amazing and brought tears to my eyes, because the two girls that helped me research work really, really hard, and I don't have anything to give them except for when people follow us or donate on our Rumble channel, which I share everything equally with them. And Diane gave these glasses out for free and asked for people to provide donations. And then she didn't even take the cost of the glasses out. She donated all of the proceeds of that request to me and the two ladies that helped me do my research. So I just want to do a public thank you to Diane, and hopefully I'll get a chance to do that on a Badlands platform tomorrow. But just totally awesome token of appreciation, and I will read her letter tomorrow. Anyway, thank you, Diane. God bless you. And that comes from the bottom of all three of us's heart, because it was perfect timing. So anyway.
And they're legit shades, just so people know.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Yeah.
Like you're walking around with some tinted windows, like just so you know.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
So a question that I've been asked in the chat is, when are you coming back to Rumble, Colonel?
So I was on vacation last week, and doing Rumble simultaneously when I'm doing the X thing, when I'm not at home is it's asking a lot from me. I've got everything set up here so I can just go click, click, click. But anyway, we will try to do that. The last 2 days, I had appointments all this morning, and then yesterday was crazy. And so tomorrow should be our return to simultaneously doing both of those. Plus, I have a new book that we will start our book reviews again here shortly. That I've just been reading so many books that help me get background, but doesn't necessarily add to kind of the real intriguing kind of cool stuff. Not that any of this is really cool because it's all gross, but more like the sensational thing that I think reveals earth-breaking, or groundbreaking new information. So I don't really want to bore you with kind of the background material, but it does allow me to add more context when I do find the good book. So I found one. Not going to say which one it is because I'm reading two, and I don't know which one's going to come first. So we will start the book reviews again, which are 100% on Rumble. I do not do them on X. So hang out there with me just a little bit longer for me to get all that set up, because it's been crazy. Oh, and by the way, I have I don't even want to show you. I could turn my computer around. I have a stack of business crap about like this deep that my tax preparers called me going, "Where is my stuff?" So I don't know. I'm juggling so many things.
Well, I can tell you this. I can feel the anxiety of the ones in the audience are wondering, like, okay, we have a date. We know when it's coming back.
Yeah.
So
probably the beginning of next week. Yeah, probably the beginning of next week. I'm not going to make a promise, but that's what I'm kind of shooting for.
Very awesome. Very, very awesome. So tonight, I noticed a couple of 3-letter agency names that were mentioned, including a building.
Yeah. So one of the things, kind of zooming back out in the whole Gladio, when you look at the wagon wheel that we started off with in the arms trafficking, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and then Gladio and the blackmail thing, if you take that whole thing in context, one of the 3D elements is NGOs, right? We know that there's a lot of fake fronts that the CIA sets up to facilitate this whole thing. Like, for example, the World Commerce Corporation, WCC, that the CIA set up was a drug or a weapons trafficking entity. And they did a lot in Libya and all kinds of they were gun runners. And there's lots of those. And that was actually set up as like a corporation. And one of these shows, we're going to kind of go through a laundry list of what they were and how they facilitated this, because that's a whole show. I mean, you've got the BCCI Bank, the Nugent Hand Bank, which I've been doing a series of posts on. And so that's a whole probably 2 or 3 shows in itself. Then you have the NGO element. They kind of float around here. And over the course of discovering Operation Gladio and the magnitude of it, you come across some like the World Anti-Communist League, which comes up all the time. Well, one of the ones that had come up repeatedly, and I just had kind of, I have a notepad that here's all my future research things, right? This one kept coming up, and I put like little hash marks when I'm reading a book and it comes up, because the way I read a book, and I love telling people about this, because when you're doing research, I think it helps when I write in my books. Probably the one I will not write in is the one I just got, and it's out in the living room, because it's a first edition of one. It was the only one available, and I had to pay almost $100 for it because it's out of print, because it is a big CIA exposure book. I will not write in that one, but I normally write in the side margins, down at the bottom, down at the top. And if I come across a name, I circle it. And if I come across the name of a corporation, like one of their fake things or an NGO, I circle it. So when I'm going back for references, it makes it a lot faster for me. Well, also, if that's a new one that I've never seen before, if I don't have time to like do the wiki thing and read a few articles on it, I just write it on a notepad. And after I get a few hash marks beside it, I take some time and then I go look it up. Not on wiki, but like for real. And so I've had this one on my list for a long time. And let me get back up to the top. It is a very interesting organization. It's called the American Security Council. And trust me, there's a laundry list of these things. But I do want to take, over the course of the next several shows, because this one will probably not be done in one show. It's that big. I do want to take a couple of them and go through them, because they're woven into so much of this story. So we can start out with kind of the generic. If you go to what you find on Wiki now is American Security Council Foundation, because there's been some changes to it. And it originally started out as the Institute for American Strategy. They're a nonprofit. It was founded by a guy by the name of John M. Fisher. And it's currently led by Henry A. Fisher, and they spelled his name a little different. So I don't know if they're actually related or not. One is spelled Fisher, and the other one is Henry Fischer. But anyway, in 1997, the organization merged with the original American Security Council, and it was founded in 1954 by a guy by the name of Robert Wood. And he happens to be the Sears Roebuck Company chairman. He was Sears Roebuck forever. And that's very interesting, because he comes up on several Operation Gladio kind of behind the scenes. You know how I talk about the International Syndicate? This guy was definitely a member of the International Syndicate. He comes up on a whole bunch of different research projects that I have done. And the one that stood out the most to me for this guy was he was one of the primary funders of the America First Committee, the original one. And I don't know if people know that there was already an America First Committee, an America First anything. There was. And this guy, huh?
That's interesting.
Yeah. And this guy was the guy that basically funded it originally. And very important, do you know where he started his military career? In the Army, in the Philippines in 1902, during the time that we were initially taking over the Philippines and making it a colony. So those of you who remember this whole story about us going to Hawaii, this was before the CIA. This is way before that. At the end of the 1800s, in the early 1900s, we went to Hawaii and deposed the queen and took that over. And every time we did this, it was for corporate interest. And they did it using the military in kind of a backdoor way. They did this mainly out of the State Department. And all the CIA did after World War II was kind of took the corporate piece of it, the State Department piece of it, and the intelligence that had been embedded in all of the military services, and put it all under one roof called the CIA. They didn't change their mission. They just reorganized and took it out of the private sector and put it in the public sector. And so the fact that you find this guy in the second, basically, takeover, because this one happened right after the Hawaii one happened. He also, interestingly enough, served in the Panama Canal Zone, which, of course, you guys will also remember. We basically created Panama out of whole cloth. We stole it from Colombia and installed a dictator there. And this guy was there too. So
coincidence.
Absolutely. And this other company, you'll never guess the other company that he was with, DuPont. DuPont is like totally international syndicate as well. And when he was the vice president of DuPont, do you know where they were operating at?
Where?
Venezuela.
Oh my gosh, come on.
So you can see this guy's like totally swamp. Okay, so you kind of get the picture here. Enough of that. All right. So in 1963, the American Security Council, there was an organization that this organization published guidelines for Cold War victory. Okay. And this organization convinced former President Dwight D. Eisenhower to record a radio address. Now, this is while Kennedy is president. That basically endorsed what the guidelines said, because they were trying to pressure them into adopting what this American Security Council wanted to have done, not necessarily what Kennedy wanted to have done. So it's kind of like doing an end run. Oh, and probably most importantly, they drafted Ronald Reagan's kind of peace through strength. That whole national security strategy document came out of this organization. The whole, spend billions and billions of dollars and make the military industrial complex bigger. That all came out of this organization. So I wanted you to know a little bit about who they are as we get started. And I want to read you a series of quotes of some of these books, because on my little note sheet, I will put the book that mentioned it, so I know how to go back and look some stuff up. So I got some quotes, and this is all about this organization. Here's a quote. "My son was tortured to death in front of my eyes, she finally told me one day, to force me to tell them where some students were hiding. I didn't know, but they killed him anyway. He was the one who burned out my son's eyes. Him." And she pointed to a picture of Enrique Bermudez. And Bermudez was one of the American Security Council's death squad friends working in Nicaragua and Honduras during the Iran-Contra. He was also the boss of Danilo Blanton, responsible for the CIA's crack cocaine epidemic in the US by selling tons of cocaine at bargain prices to the Crips and Bloods, according to the New York Times article 3 May 1991. In the article was titled, "A Man of Hate Meets His Violent Destiny." CIA and ASC, American Security Council, backed death squads in El Salvador, also in part backfired in the extreme violence used by the MS-13 gangs in the US. Here's another quote. A new director's crusade against death squads was followed by the murder of a counselor and 6 children. When Alejandro's workers complained, they end up in a ditch, end quote, said Alan Narn, a longtime reporter in Latin America and a regional expert. Quote, soldiers would take the surviving children of the workers to local charities, unquote. And that's where AmeriCares and all of those other child trafficking, quote unquote, NGOs come into play. These people go into these villages and they kill the adults and they steal the kids. And added to that quote, just to clarify, CIA death squad leader Roberto Arzu, ARZU, was a close ASC associate in partnership with the Covenant House. And we've discussed the Covenant House several times. That's the guy, Father Bruce Ritter, who ends up being charged with child abuse and was a member of AmeriCare's board, along with the Bush family, and Jill Biden's on that board. Jill Biden.
I remember that.
Yeah. And along with the Bushes, Brzezinski was on the board. A guy whose last name is Eagleberger, who happened to be a Kissinger representative. J. Peter Grace, as W.R. Grace. He comes up in this repeatedly. Colin Powell, General Richard Stilwell, and American Security Council Chairman Robert Galvin. Involved in international child trafficking ring, all of those people were involved in it, according to Senator John DeCamp, who is the guy that broke the boys' that was out in Nebraska, the boys' home that was out there that was basically trafficking children that was in that boys' home. The name escapes me right now, but anyway, John DeCamp is the one that broke that story and basically was exposing all of the pedophilia that goes on in this circle. And this was all written about in Newsday on October 7th, 1990, titled War for the Children, Guatemala Covenant House Confronts Death Squads. And by the way, Guatemala is the country that just charged the United States with child trafficking. So it is largely suspected that the American Security Council functions as a subordinate U.S. branch of a network called La Circle, and it's CERCLE. And if you guys have never heard of that, write that down. It's LE, separate word, CERCLE. Go to X and search on that, those 2 words. You will find an entire series of threads that I did on that organization, because it is as deep as the WWF. The people that are involved in it is very similar to the WWF, and it's insidious. Just go ahead.
The Nebraska one, I looked it up for you. It's known as the Franklin Child Prostitution Ring.
Yes, but what's the name of the boys' home that's out there?
The home would have been centered. Let's see, Lawrence E. King Jr., Franklin Community Federal Credit Center.
Yeah, Franklin, the bank is basically how the whole thing got exposed.
It says the Nebraska State Foster Care Review Board did a 2-year investigation. Why? Dang, they won't say the name of the home yet.
All right, well, we'll go on. There'll be a break here in a minute. Here's another quote. Can we agree to take half of the endowment of it? They're referencing the PAFF, which is a fund that was using stolen gold from the Philippines, and use it to fund WDF for national defense projects in the US and Philippines. Examples: Strategic Defense Initiative, space programs, B-1 bombers, MX missiles, etc. This is a quote. Conventional weapons, to, in effect, build a new military-industrial complex controlled by us. If the answer is yes, I suggest Singleb, Schweitzer, Daniel Graham, and George Keegan. This was a handwritten note from Alan Foringer, administrative CIA head, to Manila, the Philippines, where the Operation Golden Lily Gold was. And the note was written to Robert Curtis. And for those of you who've watched my Golden Lily book review, it's called Gold Warriors. Robert Curtis is the mining engineer that they convinced to leave Nevada, go to the Philippines. They tried to assassinate him. He was able to make it out, and he stole all of the maps to where all of the gold was, right out from underneath all of those people that were trying to kill him. And later on, they tried to get him to go back, they being the CIA, and the John Birch Society sued him and basically made him lose everything after the fact as punishment for making it out alive. So this is a note between the CIA, who had basically was working with him to try to get him to come help them steal all of that gold. And it goes on to say both were after the buried Japanese war loot in the Philippines. Graham and Singleb were the leading members of the American Security Council, when Keegan also being close to the Operation Golden Lily. Next quote. In considering the World Anti-Communist League, which again comes up in so many of these digs, you have entered a world of ideological fanaticism, radicalism, ignorance, and fear, which is almost beyond the comprehension of an average American. Your subject matter is a collection of Oriental fascist, militarist, right-wing terrorists who put bombs on civilian aircraft, death squads, assassins, criminals, and many people who are as opposed to democracy as they are to communism. You are in danger yourself. That's a quote from a letter to journalists Scott Anderson and John Lee Anderson, from a former World Anti-Communist League member, reproduced in their 1986 book, Inside the League. The American Security Council and Le Cercle, the one I just mentioned, are the higher levels of this group and in the same network as the World Anti-Communist League. These things operate all around, circling, almost like a, if you were to build, like when you were in 3rd grade and you did your science projects and you have a mobile that has all of the planets around it. So the wagon wheel is Earth in the middle. And then you have all of these planets circling around. That's all of the NGOs that enable Operation Gladio worldwide to function as a result of all of these corporations that are kind of like in the outer sphere. So you have the corporations here, and through all of these NGOs, they orchestrate Operation Gladio on the immediate perimeter of Earth, or our wagon wheel. So that's kind of the way you visualize it. You got an outer shell, which is the oligarchs, the international syndicate. The middle stratosphere is these NGOs and fake companies that all look like a functioning, necessary operation for survival. And then you have Earth, which is our wagon wheel, the child trafficking and everything. So this thing is able to operate and do whatever they want, wherever they want. So that if this corporate entity out here wants to operate in the Congo, he just goes through this network that surrounds the Earth called NGOs and fake companies, and they beam down into the Congo and they do whatever they want, like assassinations, overthrows, confiscation of gold mines, whatever. And then they just extract all that shit right back to that corporate entity. It's literally like you're in Star Trek. That's the way you need to look at this. And so I thought it was important that we spend the next several weeks going over this middle layer. We've talked about some of the people on the outside, some of these international syndicate people like Coca-Cola, Sears, who knew? And ITT, the crypto AG company. So those guys are all out here. So we're going to spend the next little bit going about this inner layer.
IBM pops up a lot. I've been doing some research.
IBM, yeah. And ATT basically took the place of ITT. So ITT was the original phone company and telegraph service. And much of that infrastructure is gone because obviously, I mean, we still have some of that legacy system, but it basically, if you go back and look at the specific parts of the ITT corporation, much of their customers are all now found in ATT. And what's interesting about that is, remember the AT&T entity in Nashville that was blue beamed, or yeah. So again, and AT&T is the one that every time there's like a breach or something, their service goes down. Isn't that weird? It doesn't ever happen to Verizon. It only ever happens to AT&T. So, and they just happen to be the one that's that the government uses the most to spy on everybody.
That's AT&T is a whole show by itself. Yeah. There's a lot with AT&T.
Yeah.
Especially when you looked at what went down in Tennessee.
Yes. And I honestly, I don't know. I mean, I can understand if you have a business phone and your company pays for that. Who in their right mind would walk into an AT&T store and subscribe to them? I mean, I think they all suck. AT&T would be my worst case scenario.
Yes.
But anyway, maybe we could get Patriot Mobile to sponsor us.
That'd be nice. I mean, if you're listening, you got a connection, reach out.
There you go. All right. So moving on. So we mentioned that it was the American Security Council was founded in 1954. And for decades, prominent generals, intelligence officers, businessmen, and scholars have served on its board. These are not your average run-of-the-mill people. Most of them, during the height of the Senator McCarthy hearings, were all basically his supporters behind the scenes at that time, because of course his mantra was anti-communist too. These guys all line up on that side, and they're really not, which is why I picked this one first. There's been so much research into these nonprofits that focus on the East Coast banking establishment, you know, and the State Department. That this is very different than that. This is kind of like the blue collar one. They don't have a lot of the Princeton, Yale guys, not that they don't have any, but it's very different. The organization, and we will do this one because this one's crazy. The organization in the Operation Gladio sphere that it captures that East Coast one is called the Pilgrim Society, of course. And we will do that one later. But this one is, just think of this one as kind of the blue collar, like the Sears Roebuck version and not the Macy's version. So, and another way of looking at this is they kind of captured what was referred to a long time ago as the old right and the new right and the religious right. You find all of those people in this one group. They had, like I mentioned, the America First Committee was in here. A group called the Crusaders was in here. A group called the National Association of Manufacturers was in here. A group called the American Liberty League in here, and the American Legion in here. Now, if you guys remember our General Smedley Butler, when we first talked about, I mean, like way back at the beginning, the Anthony Sutton book about FDR and Wall Street, the fact that General Smedley was giving a speech at the American Legion and had someone come up to him and approach him of what we were told in the news is that they wanted to overthrow or coup FDR. That's not what they wanted to do at all. And some people still today believe that. That is not what, if you read the actual testimony of General Smedley's Senate / Congress congressional testimony, that's not what he says. What he says is that the scheme was they wanted someone to act as basically like a third party administrator. So it made the president a figurehead only. And that's kind of what we have.
Interesting. And this is obviously from his wiki, but I'll just read 2 sentences here, maybe 3. In 1933, and we're talking about General Smedley here. In 1933, he became involved in a controversy known as the business plot, when he told a congressional committee that a group of wealthy industrialists were planning a military coup to overthrow President Franklin D. Roosevelt, with Butler selected to lead a march of combat veterans to place the legitimate government under arrest, similar to how fascist regimes were being founded at the time. The individuals involved all denied the existence of such a plot, and the media ridiculed General Butler's allegations. But a final report following an investigation by a special House of Representatives committee confirmed at least some of his testimony.
But that is not what was said. If you go to, and that's the kind of common belief, because they don't want you to know the truth. Because when you know the truth and you know that what he suggested was that figurehead thing, I was just reading another book. As a matter of fact, I think it's the one, well, it's one of the 2. And I'm not going to remember which one it is right now. But I actually had to say something about it on X, because it is exactly the scenario that General Smedley said, where it was making the president a figurehead. And I'm like, holy shit, there's that theme again. And remember, when I do this research, that's what I look for. I look for patterns. So if somebody says that, like, okay, I'm reading it in congressional testimony, so that's what General Smedley said. But then I ask myself, why did everybody try to mischaracterize it and say it was something else? Because all any lazy person's going to do is look at the wiki thing and go, oh, well, you know, it was a military coup. There's no way in hell that would have ever happened. So he must have been off his rocker, right? That's not what he said at all. And if you actually know what he said, and then you're reading another book where somebody else goes, oh, yeah, we've got this plan to make the U.S. president a figurehead, and we're going to basically be running it from behind the scenes. Isn't that what Obama just said when he was interviewed at the end of his thing, saying, yeah, I'd love a third term if I could just do it from behind the scenes, right? And we just have a figurehead. Hello? So when you actually, that's why this is so important, because this takes 5 different directions of information and kind of congeals them down so you can start seeing patterns.
So I want to read up on this guy because you've definitely spiked my interest in him again. And just going through some of his citations, because he's one of the few that have received the Medal of Honor twice. But one of the medals of honor that he received, it was a shared award with Dan Daly. Now you ask any Marine about Dan Daly, we know Dan Daly. I'm like, why don't I remember the name Smedley Butler?
So Smedley Butler, when he was a major, was the guy that basically stole Panama. He was the guy that went ashore that stole Panama.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's
So
good.
he's in a whole bunch of this stuff too. That's why I think and I would highly suggest you read up on him because he is a very interesting guy. Okay, so he goes on to say in his book, Smedley Butler, he wrote a book called War is a Racket. I want you to read his quote. Here it is. My mental faculties remain in suspended animation while I obeyed the orders of higher ups. This is typical with anyone in military service. I helped make Mexico, especially Tampico, safe for American oil interest in 1914. I helped make Haiti and Cuba a decent place for the national city bank boys to collect revenues in. That's the Rockefellers. I helped in the raping of half of a dozen Central American republics for the benefit of Wall Street. The record of racketeering is long. I helped purify Nicaragua for the International Banking House of Brown Brothers in 1909 to 1912. I brought light to the Dominican Republic for American sugar interests in 1916. In China, I helped to see to it that the Rockefeller Standard Oil went its way unmolested. During those years, I had, as the boys in the back room would say, a swell bracket. Looking back on it, I feel that I could have given Al Capone a few hints. The best he could do was to operate his racket in 3 districts. I operated on 3 continents. Unquote.
That is a freaking Operation Gladio confession.
Yes, it is. And that's before Operation Gladio was even a thing, because remember, so basically the CIA kind of sublets special forces now. This is when they had to use the actual military and corporate private interest and use kind of the State Department as the go-between. Yes, it is an admission of everything that we've been talking about.
Like if I'm the main investigator, every place he listed is going at the top of a pushpin board, and,
Yes.
and we're working down.
Yeah.
Like for decades.
But these are all of the places that I've already exposed. As a matter of fact, the Dominican Republic, when we dug into that, the Dominican Republic is the place. Oh gosh. So if you guys remember, my arch nemesis now is Felix Rodriguez. I just can't let go of that guy. Because it just blows my mind that he sat in Tucker's house and did an interview, and he's an assassin. He's like one of the worst ones too. If you read his history, while he was still in high school, so his family sent him to boarding school in Pennsylvania for high school. That's how wealthy his parents were from Cuba. Okay. Before he graduated, like between his junior and senior year, he left school for a year. And you know where he went? The Dominican Republic. And then he comes back and graduates high school, finishes up whatever he had to do. Well, at the time, and it does talk about this in another book that I was reading about Felix Rodriguez, he was trained at the basically Gladio stay behind training camps along the border of Haiti in the Dominican Republic. They had set up basically like what they have in Ukraine right now, where the New York Times article was talking about the CIA set up like 20 of these classified sites along the current border before it was the current border, like they knew it was going to be the current border. They set that exact same apparatus up along the Haiti because they were going to launch terrorists from the Dominican Republic into Haiti to destabilize it. And Felix Rodriguez was one of those guys.
Kind of feels like what's happening in Colorado right now.
Kind of like that. So,
Have you seen some of the videos?
yes, I have.
I'm like, that doesn't even look like America.
It looks like they're America.
True.
Yeah. Okay. So then we get up to the 1930s when England was threatening, and the Eastern was threatened, supposedly. And the Eastern establishment finally begins to push for war with Germany. After the war, this group also became increasingly internationalist in order to supposedly prevent a new, what actually happened, World War II. This group would later end up becoming the American Security Council and had no other loyalties to England or mainland Europe initially. Some of them that were in the old right. Now, remember, this organization kind of takes all of the aspects of the right, the new right, the old right, and the religious right, and combine them. There were a lot of internationalists. So after World War II, the interventionalists making up the new right were like blooming out everywhere. And for some of the people in that camp, they wanted basically to create a fortress of America using the military-industrial complex. And so supporters of all of this, including General MacArthur, backed people like Senator Robert Taft, and basically kind of gave birth to this fascist, globalist, industrial oligarch setup. And Jerry Falwell kind of was the forefront of the religious right aspect of this. And he was a very close ally of the American Security Council. As a matter of fact, he was part of one of their initiatives called Peace Through Strength, which I told you was the military doctrine that was sold to Ronald Reagan. Jerry Falwell appeared on a television program along with a guy by the name of Fisher, the one we had already talked about, and General J. Milnor, Milnor Roberts, on his Religious Council of 56. All kinds of Cold War activists appeared, and here's a few of them. General Daniel O. Graham and Clay Claiborne. Both of them were actually on the Security Council. Larry McDonald of Western Goals. And Western Goals is its own NGO that's very similar to this. It would be worth talking about for like about 10 or 15 minutes on one where we'll do a catch up because it is very interesting too. Nelson Bunker Hunt of the John Birch Society, and a whole laundry list of others. Decades-long president of the American Security Council, John Fisher, was described by the Religious Roundtable as a close friend, as was Joseph Coors of Coors Brewing. He also was on the American Security Council too. Several other prominent religious preachers were part of this network. In reality, this group of what basically became neocons There was a nexus between it and Israel. And the CIA Mossad connection ran through James Angleton, who we know from the CIA. And it just so happens that Angleton was also, keep in mind, the desk for the Vatican as well. So you've got one guy at the CIA that handles both the Vatican and Mossad, James Angleton. He also was a co-chairman of the American Security Council in the 1980s. In 1976, soon after he was forced to retire, Angleton set up his, this is just, it gets crazy, Security and Intelligence Fund. So he creates, because he's retired, he creates a front company for the CIA. John Fisher was founder and longtime president of the American Security Council and was a founding director of James Angleton's Security and Intelligence Fund, just by coincidence. President was Elbridge Durbrow, who, like Angleton, was co-chair of the American Security Council. And what's interesting is if you look up, let's see, where did he go? Durbrow. Let's take a look at him real quick. Durbrow was in the State Department. He was deputy chief of missions in Moscow after World War II. He then became U.S. ambassador to South Vietnam in 1957 through 62, which it was at the height of basically all of the shit that went on in Vietnam, which we're going over on my X Spaces.
First name Elbridge, right?
Huh?
His first name's Elbridge Durbrow?
Elbridge, yeah.
All right. Just want to make sure I bring up the right one.
Okay. So in South Vietnam, everything that you think you know about Vietnam is a lie. We basically destabilized the entire country. We lied at the Geneva Accords and said that we were going to support a nationwide election, which we subverted. And then we basically, after having throughout World War II, fought alongside Ho Chi Minh, who was a nationalist and wanted to have that unifying countrywide, because they had been for decades a French colony, for lack of a better word, and then temporarily was occupied by Japan. All they wanted was their country back. And we didn't want to give that to them. As a matter of fact, do you remember who I always tell you is the worldwide drug trafficker?
No.
Chiang Kai-shek.
Chiang Kai-shek.
Chiang Kai-shek was the quote unquote nationalist Chinese guy that fought against Mao. The reason Mao was even a thing originally is because Chiang Kai-shek was drugging all of the Chinese, helping the UK exploit China. He was basically their lackey in country. And Chiang Kai-shek that's how they come up with the whole idea of Gladio and how to pay for it. Paul Helliwell from the CIA is basically shadowing Chiang Kai-shek in the southern part of China, and he's watching Chiang Kai-shek pay for their military endeavors against Mao by selling opium to all of the people and the world. At one time, he's said to have had like 60 to 70% of the world market.
Jesus.
Okay, so this guy, we're supporting him. Okay, we, the U.S., are supporting Chiang Kai-shek because we're saying that he's fighting against communism. Okay, but he's drugging everybody. So how bad is communism compared to, introducing heroin to the entire world? Well, obviously we chose that. Not communism way over there in China. We decided to distribute heroin to the entire world under the guise of fighting a communist in China. Well, in Vietnam, after, just like within Korea, after, how like, I keep backing up. In Europe, after we won World War II, they divided it up into sectors, and you had like the military governor of the Northeast sector, the Northwest sector, the Southeast, Southwest, and it kind of geographically got set up, and you'd have like governors, and they were supposed to denazify and all this other crap and then turn it back over to a stable government, right? That's kind of how we do all of this shit. We screw it up every time, but that's kind of the way we do it. Well, in Korea, we did the same thing. The North was given to the USSR to push the Japanese the rest of the way out in Korea, and the South was given to the United States, under the guise that you have about a year to do that, and then we want to have a national election and give the country back to the people. Well, obviously, that's not what happened. As a matter of fact, it's quite possible, and this is a hypothesis on my part, but I think it's a very educated one, once you find out what was happening. So it's not going well for Chiang Kai-shek in southern China. So he gets pushed out of southern China into Burma. And the Burmese, he has competitors in Burma, and they don't like him being there. So that's like a stickly pair. Well, my hypothesis is the whole reason we were in Korea to begin with, and that we didn't want to leave, and we put a fake president in the South and told the North, F you, we're not going to let you have your countrywide election, was because MacArthur had the idea, because they want to use Chiang Kai-shek to pay for all of these Operation Gladio Black Ops. So they need to get him back into southern China. They want China. China has all of this opium, and they didn't want to have to start over. And so my hypothesis is MacArthur got the bright idea that he could push from the South in Korea up through the North and get Chiang Kai-shek back into China. Now, the reason why I say that is I found classified documents that actually, they're CIA classified documents that says that prior to the North attacking the South, which is supposedly how the Korean War started, we actually infiltrated the North. First of all, we killed everybody that was a nationalist in South Korea, just killed them. When we got there, we brought in a fake president, Rhee, R-H-E-E, and we instituted a policy like we did in Vietnam, Phoenix program, where all kinds of shit started in the South. And they started noticing that no one was going to vote for Rhee in this unifying election, because everybody hated him because he left. He abandoned them. And he was living in the lap of luxury outside the country while they were there fighting. So they hated him. So they realized they got a loser. And the only way they're going to be able to plausibly get him elected is if you kill everybody that's a naysayer in the South. And so they start doing this. And I mean, they assassinate entire villages, burn villages. And then they started missions into the North where they were creating, and it actually used the word stay behind units. I'm on the CIA document. And they also, in the same document, talk about infiltrating student organizations in the North, because keep in mind, North Korea at the time was just like the North during our Civil War. It was where all of the industry was, all of the big businesses were in the North, very industrialized, wealthy. The South was all farmers, just like America. And so They took student organizations, infiltrated them in the North, and started agitating. And those agitations in the North were discovered by Kim, and that's when he came south, because he knew he had been infiltrated and he knew they were setting him up. And so he's like, F it. If you guys are going to attack me with these stay behinds and get all these students agitated to create all this havoc, I'm going to come kick your ass. And he launches south. They use that as a provocation, and then they head north. And of course, everybody knows the story. MacArthur pushes all the way up to the Chinese border. Well, he made a mistake. He went over the Chinese border, not only physically with troops, but in the air. They actually lost aircraft in China. So he had invaded basically China. And you don't hear anything about that in history. And that's when the Chinese got involved and pushed MacArthur back down.
Oh, just like you don't hear in history during the Iraq War, where units may have went into Iran and Saudi Arabia.
May have.
Just may have.
And that exact same thing happened in Vietnam. Only in Vietnam, the country was divided after World War II, where the British got the bottom sector, the South. And do you know who they gave the northern sector to? Chiang Kai-shek. But in history books, it says it was given to China. Well, China didn't fight. Not the communist China, Mao. Chiang Kai-shek was on our side. So they brought a drug lord into northern China on the payroll of the CIA. And that still didn't work out for him. But he was doing in the North basically what we were doing in the South in Korea. He was basically killing all of the Viet Minh nationalists in the North, trying to prep so that when they had the election, they elected the fake president there, which was Diem. And so you have almost an exact replica in Korea and in Vietnam, which is all the more interesting when you get back to this and you see Elbridge Durbrow saying on his little Wikipedia entry that he was the U.S. ambassador to South Vietnam from 57 to 61 when all of this shit was happening, and that he supported the Diem regime until the late 1960s. And by the way, he's so freaking worthless that we kill him. He is so hated by the South, and they just cannot. So I have to say this because this word is so important and it's never said. In order for them to make all of this shit work, it has to be plausible. And I have said this repeatedly about the current election cycle that we're in.
Yep.
Biden was not a plausible candidate. There's no freaking way that they could lie enough to make it plausible for him to win again. They just couldn't. So something had to happen. Their story has to be plausible until you're actually in a dictatorship. Then they just don't give a shit. But when you're in this transition phase, they are still lying to you, but their lies have to be plausible.
Let me jump in there real quick, Colonel, because I know we're talking about, Chiang Kai-shek and a different era. But I just want people to, and you opened the door for it here as well. If you were in America, you just couldn't go off and just start killing conservatives. It's
well,
too
kind of. I mean, they did that on January 6th, but go ahead. I see your point.
Well, in mass, because if you try to do it in mass, alternative media, citizen journalism, as much as they try to censor it, they don't have complete control of it, which I think they wanted to. Just like we don't hear about
that might be why they arrested the Telegram guy.
100%. I mean, you can cover up genocides if you control the media. How many people have never even heard of the Falun Gong? And they're being genocided and organ harvested in China right now. Not a conspiracy.
Okay, well, we're going to revisit that when we get to that area.
And when we do, I have a special guest to bring on to give specifics on that. But the point I'm trying to make here is, since they know they can't get away with the mass murder, what are some of the things they did? I mean, there was a bioweapon put into people's body. We know there was January 6th to arrest, and the ones that aren't arrested to intimidate. It was a way of controlling the outcome of the election to as much of an extreme measure
Make
they
it
could
plausible.
to keep it plausible. 100%. And I'm telling you, Colonel, before this podcast ever existed in mid 2021, I saw the writing on the wall and I said, listen, Biden is not going to be reelected in 2024. At the time, I said he's going to be replaced with what I believe was going to be Gavin Newsom on things I was seeing, and they're going to replace Trump with Ron DeSantis. And I pissed off MAGA on America First. They were like, oh, I said, look, I support Trump. I'm just trying to get ahead of it so y'all can recognize it when it happens. And they said, well, why don't they do it now? Because they got to completely destroy this country under Biden. So when they get rid of him, he's the one to blame, and the new Democratic nominee is going to be the one to fix it. And we're kind of seeing that unfold right now. So just understanding the extremes that they'll go to implement the regime they want, they haven't stopped. They try to do it through silent weapons now.
So, and that's basically what I have said all along after discovering Operation Gladio. If you guys tune in or go to my X page and click on the links for the 4:00 show that I do, we are going through the Phoenix program right now. The Phoenix program started here in 2001 after 9/11 in earnest. You are going to see the parallel to where we're at right now as we talk about the implementation of the Phoenix program in Vietnam. Because the Phoenix program, while there are assassinations happening inside the United States, one of the new mechanisms is the prosecutorial torture, which has already resulted in multiple suicides, resulting January 1st or January 6th. So they are doing exactly what they did as far as results go, but they have added some techniques. And in the past, like in the Phoenix program there, they would just assassinate you. Here, and it is, by the way, called disappearing. That's literally what they call it. They make you disappear. Here, now, today, they can cyberly make you disappear. They can debank you. They can hack your phone, and you're gone. They can force media companies to silence you online, throw your account away. So they are making you disappear.
You just had Zuckerbucks. Was it yesterday, the day before yesterday? I really regret it. And y'all better not be forgiving this clown. I hear some people saying, well, he's doing good. No, just because. Go ahead, Colonel, please.
Well, no, but he only said what he said because he just got found guilty in the court of law in Texas. Ken Paxton is the one that exposed all of that. He's not saying it because he's got a change of heart. He's saying it because it's already been printed in a court judgment. Anybody that thinks that's actually a confession is full of shit. It's already a matter of record in a court case. He was found guilty of doing exactly that. That is not a confession. It's acknowledging what was already established in a court of law. Anyway, yeah, don't get my blood going with him.
Yes.
Okay, so going back to our Elbridge guy, it goes on to say that Dim and his American supporters worked to get Durbrow transferred because Durbrow said to everybody out loud, Dim's a loser. And so instead of the American CIA and all of the Dem supporters saying, hey, that guy may actually have a point, they transferred the ambassador. He got recalled by President Kennedy in 1961. And where did they send him? Think. Oh my God, they sent him to NATO. You just can't make this shit up. So, and also if you look at where his postings were, oh, I don't know. Let's see. Naples. Oh, Italy, you know, where Operation Gladio got born. Yeah. Rome. Oh, holy shit. The first operation of Operation Gladio. Yes, it was in Rome. Lisbon. Oh, where's Lisbon at? Haven't we talked about Lisbon? Yeah, that's the capital of Portugal. And what part of Operation Gladio was there? Agenter Press, which is the fake media company that was printing all of their false documents and passports and IDs and all that other shit for the entire Gladio network. Yeah, that same Lisbon. So then you just look at the rest of the crap the guy was involved in, and it gets worse. He was part of the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and that's the blackmailing bank that they hold over all of these third world companies. He was at the IMF, which again is another blackmailing of these third world new leaders. That's how they buy them. He didn't want the, let's see. In 1946, he left the position to be assigned as the counselor in the Moscow embassy after Kennan left. And he was working under Walter Bedell Smith, which you will recognize because he went on to be the CIA director. You know, nothing to see there. But what was even more interesting, listen to this. From 48 to 50, he served as an advisor to National War College in Washington, D.C., and spent the next 2 years as director of the Foreign Service Personnel Division. In 52, he was sent to Italy, where he was the deputy chief of mission to the U.S. ambassador. Who? Oh, Claire Booth Luce. She's the one that helped interfere in the election in Italy.
Claire Booth Smooth?
Yes. And he would have been in Italy, in Rome, when they were setting up the Vatican Bank to do all the money laundering for Operation Gladio. In 1957, President Dwight D. Eisenhower named him as the ambassador to Vietnam, which we've already talked about. And it goes through and talks a little bit more about his role there. And then it says he served as the delegate to NATO's council in Paris and later as the government advisor, oh my God, to my alma mater at Air University. Yeah. So anyway, then it says, after he retired, he served as the chairman of the American Foreign Policy Institute, which is another CIA front, by the way. And another one, the Center for International Strategic Studies. That's another one. And the Freedom Studies Center. I've not heard of that one, the Freedom Studies Center. But anyway, so there you go. That's the kind of people that we're talking about here at the illustrious American Security Council. And this is the guy, this Durbrow guy that Angleton picked to be a founding director on his front company called Security and Intelligence Fund. So he is, and he's not just anybody on the American Security Council. He was the co-chairman. Then there was General Robert Richardson III, who was also the National Strategy Committee person. He served as a longtime secretary and treasurer on James Angleton's Security and Intelligence Fund. And so you see the overlap here with everything CIA. Other career CIA officers that were on the Security Council National Strategy Board was Richard Bissell, Deputy CIA Director under Allen Dulles, Covert Operations Expert Ray Klein, co-chair of the Strategic Board, Daniel Arnold, a CIA officer apparently deeply involved in the drug trade, and he was, and about another dozen or so that was on strategic important positions that were also CIA. So you can see that it's basically a CIA front. Another interesting thing is that the CIA officers that were at the Security Council tend to have been from that Eastern establishment background. So while the rest of the people were kind of the blue collar people, they embedded the Eastern overlap via the CIA officers. And so you have Angleton, who went to Yale and Harvard. You have Klein, who had a PhD from Harvard, and Bissell, who had a PhD from Yale. Another one would be Frank Barnett, who was vice president of H. Smith Richardson Foundation, which was already linked to the CIA. And
Let me interrupt you real quick, Colonel.
Sure.
So www.cia.gov, it's where I get a lot of the declassified ones that I bring up on the screen for you guys. And so I found the header on the devil's search engine, American Security Council Washington Report, Security and Intelligence Fund. And it's putting together the officers from the FBI and the CIA. So let me show everybody what happens. So there it is. So then I say, okay, let's bring it up so I can show the audience. And it's loaded. And that's what we get. Unavailable. Sorry, guys, you are not going to see who the officers from the CIA and FBI are on. Whoops, we didn't really mean to declassify that one. Somebody phone call Colonel Towner. She's ratting us out right now.
I run into that a lot. Now, sometimes you can take that same website and put it in archive.org and it'll still find it.
Nice.
Okay, so let's see. We left off at Frank Barnett. He was the vice president of Smith Richardson Foundation, and that was a CIA front as well. He put up the funding for the American Security Council's National Military Industrial Conferences, along with Fisher and General Robert Woods. Barnett is a Rhodes Scholar who also held Rockefeller and Ford fellowships, which basically are in bed with the CIA as well. So he's got the UK and the US link. And what you will find in all of these NGOs is all of them eventually will have a link with a Rhodes Scholar to the UK.
And just so you know, Wayback Machine is not archived at URL. They really wanted to make sure they clean sweep that one. I'm going to find it though.
So that's probably a good place to break, because the next part of this unveiling is going to be kind of MacArthur / Eisenhower and how the whole military industrial complex worked with this particular nonprofit. And it's pretty dang wild.
This is going to be an interesting series within the series. And anytime the CIA tries to hide something, I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it.
Cool.
They're going to be they're going to start screwing with my internet again. You guys, once again, Operation Gladio night every Wednesday. We're live. If you're new to the show, I saw a lot of people saying, "Hey, first time watching. Thank you for being here. Do me a favor. This amazing woman that you see over here, she has X. She does these spaces on X where she does this same content and more. So you need to make sure you're following her. Her handle's down in the description. Her Rumble channel, which she's going to be getting back to since she's done with vacation for now, is down in the description. So if you guys love this show, go and make sure you follow her on X, subscribe to her on Rumble. It's free. Come on, and get educated on this, and then share it out. With that, Colonel, anything else you want to add to them? And then I got some final messages for our listeners.
No, I just thank everybody for being here. I know as a result of us doing this series, the feedback that you got from the Badlands conference was crazy. It's, I mean, I wish everybody knew, but I'm amazed at how many people do know. And the more that I can get people coming to our page on X and sharing this information out, part of this, and I share it with you guys because I think we're all family here. We've been together long enough to be family, actually. Part of my frustration is these bigger accounts that are on X, some of which have corresponded with me behind the scenes, know what Gladio is, but they won't use it. They won't use the term. And I love watching someone like Mike Ben's content, but he's asked me outright, not even in a DM, what Gladio is and what book I would recommend. And of course, I told him Paul Williams, and he obviously has read his book because he talks about all of this. He won't name it. And I've got this kind of commitment, if you will, to this thing, because one of the things I know in a PsyOps campaign, just like I told you guys when we were talking about Vietnam, the name in Vietnam for the nationalist was Viet Minh, M-I-N-H. The CIA had to create their own name, Viet Cong, and Viet Cong was associated with communist, not nationalist. And once they name it, then they attack it. And if we would get our shit together and had any military sense about us at all, the one thing that you know is commanding the language and controlling the narrative is vital to success. So if you don't name it, and I'm sorry, Mike, but Blob doesn't name it. That is a nebulous piece of slime sitting on a table that goes blah, 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 blah. That's what a blob is.
It's a movie character.
It is an international syndicate that is criminal in nature, and it is rotating around this entire stay behind strategy of tension, Gladio paramilitary capability. And if you can't name it, you're never going to win it. So that's kind of my soapbox. That part pisses me off, obviously. And I need your help. The best thing, which because we think alike, your hashtag Gladio, Operation Gladio, obviously now pre-populates every single time. Not that we've gotten it trending yet, but with your audience, Alpha, it should be trending, right? Because I use it on every post. So that's kind of my challenge. I'm going to up the game here. I want it trending. I want to shove it down their throats. And we have the capacity to do that. So that's my new challenge to everybody is get on my page. I have all of the ammunition there. I have thread after thread after thread. All you got to do is go repost them. I spent 12 hours. I'm asking you for 5 minutes. Every one of my threads takes me about 12 hours to prepare. I'm asking you for 5 minutes.
And that's not asking a lot, you guys. This is what I'll say. I want to remind people because I get emails and DMs all the time. Hey, Alpha, can I clip this? My content is free, you guys, so you can absolutely clip it. I ask that if you do it on social media that I'm on or the Colonel's on, tag us with it so we can, track it, and also so people can find their way to us. But my content is free, so you guys, clip it as much as you want. Some of you are some phenomenal memers and phenomenal video creators. If you want to get a bunch of clips from a bunch of different shows, put them together and add a little spice to it, have at it. Send it to me. I'll repost it. It's getting this information out there. This is what I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine that's known around the world today. And in this conversation, I said to him or her, I'm trying to keep them as anonymous as possible right now. I probably screwed that part over. I said, you know what? I sit down in the studio sometimes and I'm working on something, and I sit back in my chair and I take a deep breath. And I'm like, I know I'm not compromised. Like, I know I'm not an agent. I'm not an op, as much as people may claim to be. I know I'm not. But I look at this vast world, this vast information war, the psychological operations that have been taking place before my father was ever even born. And I'm like, do the people realize what we're in the middle of right now? Do they truly realize that, we talk about the movie The Matrix and all that, but the concept of it, like everything you're seeing isn't real. I mean, the stuff being taught to us and our kids in school, cartoon has seeding programming. The radio has frequencies and seeding program. Gangs, Bloods and the Crips, got mentioned earlier today. Kenneth Bell, I got to train under this man who's one of the original investigators that went into to tackle them. And I get to look back on things that I was like, hold on, I need to have another talk with Mr. Bell. If he's alive, praise the Lord, hopefully he is. But you just look at all these things and you're like, this is not a blob, Mike. This is an international syndicate. That we're looking at the most comprehensive crime element that incorporates everything that we fear: human trafficking, child trafficking. You look at its ties to MS-13 and things like that, occultism, it's just everything we fear falls under this umbrella. And so when the Colonel's asking you for 5 minutes to do this, that's your part in the war that your children, your great-grandchildren, and your great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren, because, social media is a digital footprint. It'll be around forever. And your great-great-grandkids are going to be like, I want to see if my great-grandma or my great-grandpa was a badass. Let me go search whatever the Internet Archive is that day. And they're going to come away and say,
shoot.
They're going to be like
totally screwed me up. My poor grandson is going to go, oh my God, that's my grandma.
They're going to be like, they were a legend. Or they're going to search and be like, sports.
Where are you, Grandma?
Sports. That's all you talked about, Grandpa. Sports. The world was falling apart, and you were a Swiftie, Grandma. That's what you're. The world, like that's where it is, you guys. The lineage, like you are making.
My poor grandson. It's good. I don't know that woman.
Hey, it was your great grandma that did Operation Gladio. What?
Holy shit.
But the reality is that's where we're at, you guys. So, get in this fight. It's like donations. We say a little bit from a lot of people goes a long way. A little bit of work from a lot of people, that's a war front. Like, understand that, you guys, and you have a chance to be a part of that. And hopefully you guys feel my motivation when it comes behind that. Now, as far as my final thoughts tonight, if you joined late and you didn't know, this is the final episode of season 3. We just wrapped up. We're wrapping up our 3rd year this Friday. That is 3 years for this show. Thank you very much. So next week we'll be starting episodes will keep counting, but it'll be the first episode of our 4th year. Super stoked about it. So I told you guys I got a little teaser for you if you stood by to the end. For 3 years, I've never changed the intro. I love the intro. It's the first video I ever made, and I'm very, very proud of it. But I see a gentleman, and I don't know if it's okay for me to say his name. So if he does, I'll let you guys know next week. But he does great work. And I said, hey, man, it's time for a new intro. Oh, I felt it here. And I go, but here's the thing. I want the same concept and the same thing. Just upgrade me, and he sent it to me today. And I probably watched it like 20 times now. I'm like, this is awesome. So the intro that you guys will see Monday, if I don't do a special episode Saturday night, you're gonna love it. And with that, there's gonna be I'm working my ass off this week. There's gonna be some new merchandise. There's just gonna be a whole bunch of just new everything come Monday.
So is your video guy fellow Badlander?
He is.
He's working on a Gladio one too.
Oh, he is. That man is talented.
Yeah, he is.
That man, I mean, he gave me, because I'm telling you, Colonel, it was like, I know this is my baby for 3 years. And he created something that encompassed what I wanted. It was, he gave me what was still me, but improved it the way I wanted.
He's amazing. He called me kind of out of the blue, and I was I did a show with him as well, and he has a hero, and I'm not going to share everything, but his hero wasn't a hero, and we were on the phone for hours talking about just kind of the whole Gladio thing in preparation for that show, and totally amazing person. So yeah,
I'm pumped. I mean,
Alpha, let me say something to you on your anniversary. You are an amazing person. I have had conversations about you off camera, and you took what could have been it certainly was one of the most challenging circumstances that someone from a military and service in like police, putting your life on the line repeatedly for the American people. And your government stabbed you in the back. You basically got up, dusted yourself off, and in 3 years have recreated yourself to be bigger, badder, and more of a pain in the ass to that same effing government. And you are one of the most amazing people that I have ever met for doing that. And your attitude is not one of begrudgment or being sour about the whole thing. Your ability to roll with the punches is truly an amazing thing. And you, I can't say enough. I mean, obviously I feel like you're my brother now. And I'm just totally amazed and honored to be a regular on your show and support you in the only way that I obviously can. But I think that you definitely are deserving of that. And God bless you and your family for what you have been through for this country. And I think your year number 4 is going to be amazing.
I saw this part in Jerry Maguire. And I'm gonna keep my composure. You got me right there, Colonel. And
I meant every word of it. You are an amazing person.
Thank you, Colonel.
You're welcome.
And thank you to the audience. It has been a fight. It's been a fight, and we will carry through this.
My team's saying amen.
Screen's getting really blurry for me right now.
Get your glasses on.
Where's my Gladio glasses? So I appreciate you, and the love is mutual, Colonel, and for your husband, because I know the sacrifice that comes from the counterparts to allow the amount of investment that it takes for something like this. And once again, to my audience, God bless you guys. God bless you guys for, having the courage to retweet the content, because a lot of this content goes against the grain. And you guys put it out there, and a lot of you guys put it out there, and it's your real pictures and your real names. And just so you know, I recognize the bravery and the courage that comes with that, because I too, at one point was just like you guys were. I watched and I learned, and I'd go put it out there. And I know the ridicule that comes when you put it out there from your family and friends of, what's wrong with you? What the heck? And you know what? There's been a lot of vindication. There's a lot of more vindication that's going to come. But the fight's not over, you guys. And it's probably going to get a lot uglier before it gets better. And I'll be here. The Colonel will be here. And this is a family. You guys are all a bunch of Alpha Warrior patriots. And some great things coming this coming week. So with that, make sure you guys go and visit the AlphaWarriorShow.tv. I even shortened it up to AlphaWarrior.tv. Make sure you put your emails in there. Monthly newsletters, all kinds of good stuff is coming. I've been working my tush off. So with that, we will catch you guys. Oh, make sure you guys tune into Sit Rep tonight. You may get a peek at a special guest. Not going to say tomorrow. So make sure you tune into Sit Rep, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And I will catch you guys on the other side. Semper Fi. God bless. And I'll see you guys next time.
You ask and we listen. We're finally bringing the most requested offer ever. Get the queen size premium MyPillow, now only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get our 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets only $25. Our brand new mattress topper as low as $69.98. Get our famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25 and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen-size MyPillow, only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay. Order today. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks, America!
Surprise. I almost forgot 2 amazing people that contributed to tonight's show. So first on deck, Breadmaker62 with the $50 Rumble rant. He really helps this show out a lot. And it says, so good to see you both. Thank you so much for the information tonight. Thank you, Breadmaker. And Rex57, who's always in the chat, always here with us with the $10 Rumble rant. Missed you. Make sure you guys show the replay. There's a video that's in my studio area, and it's pretty badass, and I don't know how it got there because I didn't put it there. So we're gonna close out tonight's intro with this video. It's 58 seconds. Do me a solid, you guys, go down, support the people that support this show, and I'll catch you next time. So enjoy the surprise with me. I'll catch you guys next time. God bless.
The most terrifying force of death comes from the hands of men who just wanted to be left alone. They try so very hard to mind their own business and provide for themselves and those they love. They resist every impulse to fight back, knowing the forced and permanent change of life that will come from it. They know that the moment they fight back, their lives as they have lived them are over. The moment that the men who wanted to be left alone are forced to fight back, it's a form of suicide. They are literally killing off who they used to be. Which is why, when forced to take up violence, these men who wanted to be left alone fight with unholy vengeance against those who murdered their former lives. They fight with raw hate and a drive that cannot be fathomed by those who are merely play-acting at politics and terror. True terror will arrive at these people's door, and they will cry, scream, and beg for mercy, but will fall upon the deaf ears of the men who just wanted to be left alone.